Hey everyone, Alex here. If you've ever finished a woodworking project, you know the dizzying number of wood finishes out there. Some cheap, some that make your wallet cry. But here's the thing, most people are wasting money on finishes that don't actually perform better. So, I decided to do what I do best, test the claims with a real-world experiment. I put 7 different wood finishes, from bargain basement to top shelf, through the ringer to see which really comes out on top. And unlike those brand ads that promise the moon, these tests are the real deal. No sponsorships, no cherry-picking results, just honest, messy, hands-on science. I was seriously shocked by the winner. It wasn't at all what I expected, and I'm betting you'll be surprised too. To keep everything fair, every finish was applied to identical wood pieces, same species, same size, sanded to the same smoothness, and every stroke applied the exact same way. So buckle up as we break down each finish, from the cheapest oil to the most premium stain, and see which one really deserves your hard-earned cash. First up, we've got the cheap Tung oil. I'll be honest, I went into this expecting it to look, well, cheap. But after wiping it on and letting it soak in, the initial appearance was actually pretty nice. The oil brought out some warmth and subtle grain pop in the wood, making it look richer than bare wood, but not overly glossy or plasticky. After a full day of drying, the finish evened out and delivered a soft sheen that felt surprisingly pleasant to the touch. Here's the kicker. Side by side with the fancy, expensive Tung oil, the cheap stuff didn't look half bad. If your main goal is to simply enhance the wood's appearance, especially on a budget, this finish passes the eye test. Of course, durability and long-term protection are another story, but for appearance alone, the value here is pretty good. That being said, if you're working on a showpiece or something that'll get a lot of handling, you might want to think twice. But for quick projects or things that won't get a lot of wear, this cheap oil could be all you need. Now let's talk about the expensive Tung oil. Right away, I noticed it was thicker and richer during application. The oil soaked into the wood a little more slowly, giving me time to work it evenly across the surface. Once it dried, the color was just a touch deeper, and the wood grain had a subtle three-dimensional quality that was really beautiful. But here's the honest truth. The difference between the cheap and the expensive Tung oil wasn't as big as I expected. If you're just looking for a nice natural finish for a bookshelf or a picture frame, you might not even notice the upgrade unless you're a wood nerd like me. The expensive stuff does feel a bit richer under your hand, and it might last longer with better water resistance, but for most people, the leap in price doesn't quite match the leap in results. So is it worth it? If you're building something super special and want bragging rights, sure. But if you're finishing a dozen shelves, you can probably save your money for another project. Okay, moving on to the budget polyurethane. This stuff is all about fast results and low cost, but as soon as I dipped my brush in, I noticed the formula was really thin. It spread across the wood super quickly, almost too quickly. The first coat looked patchy, and I found myself chasing bubbles that just wouldn't pop. After drying, the finish had visible brush marks and a weird, uneven shine that's hard to unsee once you notice it. Here's the big flaw. That unevenness doesn't just look bad, it feels rough too. If you're hoping for a glassy, professional finish, this bargain won't get you there without a ton of extra sanding and multiple coats. And even then, those pesky bubbles and streaks are hard to banish. Bottom line, the budget polyurethane might work in a pinch or for shop projects, but if you want your work to look great and feel smooth, you're probably going to end up frustrated or spending a lot more time fixing mistakes. Now for the premium polyurethane, and wow, this is where you start to see your money at work. The application was a dream. It went on thicker, but not gloopy, and leveled itself out as it dried. No chasing bubbles, no racing against drips. After curing, the board had a glassy, even finish that looked straight out of a high-end furniture catalog. What really sets this one apart is how easy it was to get a pro-level result. No need for fancy brushes or advanced techniques. The finish felt tough to the touch, like it could stand up to years of coffee mugs and toy trucks. And the shine? Perfectly consistent, with no dull patches or weird streaks. So, is it worth the upgrade? For anything you want to show off, tables, gifts, heirlooms, it's hard to beat. You'll spend less time fixing mistakes and more time admiring your handiwork. Alright, so, time to talk stains, starting with the low-cost option. I brushed it on just like the directions said, but immediately noticed that some spots sucked up the color while others barely changed. The result? Blotchy, uneven color that just looked messy. Even after careful wiping and a second coat, the wood still had those frustrating light and dark patches. This is the kind of finish that can ruin a project you spent hours building. It's unpredictable, and unless you're going for a rustic or distressed look, it just doesn't make your work shine. Maybe it's okay for a hidden shelf or a garage workbench, but it's definitely not something I'd use on a centerpiece or gift. In short, sometimes you really do get what you pay for. Low-cost stains might be tempting, but they can turn a solid project into a disappointment in no time flat. Now for the high-end wood stain. Right away, the difference was obvious. The stain spread evenly, absorbed at a steady rate, and wiped off without leaving any funky patches. The color was deep, rich, and, most importantly, consistent across the entire board. This is the kind of result you want when you've poured your heart into a project. The finish looked professional, like something you'd see in a fancy showroom, not a backyard shop. Plus, it was easier to control. No racing the clock, no panic wiping, just a smooth, predictable process. If you care about color and want your projects to stand out, investing in a quality stain is absolutely worth it. It's one of those buy nice or buy twice situations, and your future self will thank you. Let's finish with the classic showdown: natural oil versus synthetic finish. Natural oils like Tung or linseed soak deep into the wood, giving it a warm, organic look that enhances grain and texture. It's the finish of choice if you want something that feels alive and tactile. But while it looks and feels great, it just doesn't offer much protection against spills, scratches, or sunlight. On the other hand, synthetic finishes, like polyurethane, build a hard protective shell on the surface. They're not as natural looking, but they're unbeatable if you need durability. Your wood is shielded from water, heat, and even the occasional dropped plate. So, which is better? It really depends on your project. If you want to highlight the natural beauty of wood for a decorative piece, go oil. If you're making a kitchen table or desk, synthetic is the way to go. Sometimes the best finish isn't about looks or price. It's about using the right tool for the job. So, after all the tests, the winner that shocked me most was the mid-range polyurethane. It wasn't the cheapest, and it definitely wasn't the most expensive, but it offered the best balance of cost, durability, and ease of use. You really don't need to spend a fortune to get a finish that looks great and stands up to real life, but, and this is big, going too cheap can end up costing you more in time, frustration, and wasted materials. I'm curious, did any of these results surprise you? Have you ever wasted money on a wood finish that promised a miracle and delivered a mess? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more real-world, no-nonsense woodworking tests like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Next up, I'm tackling a topic that will change the way you build: a real-world test of wood glues. I've got some wild results you won't want to miss, so stay tuned.